Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. So, yep, that happened. The end of the Antorus raid, and therefore the end of Legion. We're going to break down the lore, what this means, the broader context, so you basically know kind of what the crack is. Also, there's something that's slightly unexpected that went down with this that we didn't really see from the PTR. And I think it's got far broader implications for what this means for the state of Azeroth moving forward. But okay, so let's talk about what's actually going on. Now, as we go through the Antorus raid, we basically are trying to free the remaining essences of the Titans. Basically, Agrimar has been corrupted by Sargeras. This is of course not very good, and most of the Pantheon are being tortured by the Coven of Shivara. That said, we're able to free ENR quite early on into the instance, and then with her help, we're able to free the rest of the Pantheon. So once all of the Titan essences are actually freed, we then hatch a plan, and that plan is basically to use the energy of Argus to imprison Sargeras, which pretty much destroys the Burning Legion, or at least puts them completely on ice. Now, Argus is a world soul currently. Titans have two different stages of being. Stage number 1, world soul found inside a planet. Stage number 2 is when they're like a big full-grown Titan, as we will later see. Now, currently what we see with the Pantheon is that they're not their full Titan selves. They are their essences in bodies which probably resemble their full selves, but you can quite obviously see they are nowhere near the size of a full-blown Titan. Now, a world soul is crammed full of energy. Previously, Sargeras had been using Argus's energy to fuel the Burning Legion, so when a demon dies, it can come back, but when that process, like normally, that takes too long for it to sort of be an infinite army. However, using Argus's energy, Sargeras was able to fuel this infinite army. So the plan is, we basically destroy Argus, and in the process, imprison Sargeras. So the Legion's leader, gone, and the Legion's source of a new army, also gone. Okay, so then we get into the fight. Now, here's the deal. The mythic version of this fight may have some changes to it, may have some new mechanics. They are, at least based on the data mining, rumored to involve Sargeras taking control. But what we do know is, eventually, yeah, we defeat Argus and the cinematic plays out. Of course, you've all watched the cinematic, so let's actually go and talk about it. And really, the bit here that is, I think, super relevant is Sargeras stabbing the planet, because this is something that Blizzard tried to hide. Okay, so there were times in the PTR where Kalimdor was not accessible, where there were, like, you know, encrypted objects that could not be, that couldn't really be data mined, right? When people actually went to the wound in Silithus, there was this big hole in the world where clearly it was clear there was something was supposed to be there, but Blizzard did a good job of hiding all that stuff. We now see what that is. So just before he gets completely imprisoned, Sargeras spawns this massive sword and stabs the planet. Here's the thing that caught me a little bit off guard and that I didn't expect. That went really, really, really deep. Like, that seems to be more damaging to the planet than any previous thing that has happened. It seems to be far more damaging, at least based on the visuals, than when Yasharaj was thrown into the earth to be destroyed, which is then what ended up creating the Well of Eternity and a whole bunch of other stuff. And then the other component of that is this massive sword, which is being plunged right into the planet. On the PTR, we didn't know that it stuck there. We thought he just sort of, did a little jab, and that was it. No, he lodges this sword deep in the planet. Now, I can't actually get footage of this because I'm in the EU, and somehow I severely doubt I'll be able to clear the entire instance tomorrow. But that sword is pulsing red, corrupted stuff into the planet. It's the same color of red that you see in the end sections of Antorus, so it clearly is not good stuff at all. Now, we know that in Battle for Azeroth, the planet itself is kind of dying. It's not doing very well. Magni gives us the Heart of Azeroth amulet necklace, which is our artifact replacement in the next expansion. So it's clear that it's an extremely dire situation that we're dealing with in terms of the planet. Now, to give you an idea of how big this is, it takes minutes to fly up to the max height for it. It can be seen from Gadget-san. It's absolutely humongous. And then, of course, it looks even bigger when you actually see it from the perspective of the side of the planet from that cinematic. Yeah, I think this is pretty major. It's also a massive location in terms of It's like this big spire that's now sticking out of the earth. I've got to wonder if they're actually going to do anything with that in the future. Okay, so there's that. Now let's talk about the other stuff. Illidan. He's not dead. He's pretty much just the jailer of Sargeras. So they sort of suck Sargeras down with that big beam, and basically it seems like they kind of make Sargeras in a weakened state about the size of the other members of the Titan Pantheon who are not like in their full Titan form, and then Illidan is able to serve as his jailer at the seat of the Pantheon. What this basically means is Illidan is alive, Sargeras is alive, the Pantheon are alive, they're basically just all in stasis, kind of locked away. Now, what that pretty much means is Blizzard have a bunch of very important characters pretty much in the back pocket. I would have to wonder if WoW is to have a final expansion, if it means these guys get taken out again, or if towards the end of the Void arc, and I think this ties into the Void arc quite a lot, maybe at the end of that arc, that's when we see Sargeras, the Pantheon, etc. come out. Because here's the thing, Sargeras and the Pantheon both hate the Void. Right, Sargeras' main goal was basically to destroy Titan world souls, and he wanted to do that so that they could not be corrupted by the Void forces, because basically a Void corrupted world soul is the worst possible, at least from what we know of the current lore, it's the worst possible thing that can happen. It pretty much means we've lost. Now, what Sargeras wanted to do was destroy Azeroth, because it was the most powerful world soul. He wanted to destroy it, and then have his Burning Legion be the dominant force, meaning that the Void would be starved of these super powerful world souls because, nothing else could really stand against the Burning Legion other than, or at least supposedly, that was what Sargeras thought, nothing else could stand against him other than Azeroth corrupted by Void. So what he has sort of done here is achieved one of his goals a bit, in that Azeroth may actually be dying and we don't exactly know what's going on there. But in doing that, is there another force as powerful as the Legion? Well, I suppose technically yes, but again, we didn't win because of might. It seems like we more won because we were very smart. Like, we didn't actually face the Infinite Army, we just sort of went into their base and, turned off the lights. Now, what does this mean? Well, this means that I think the Void arc is really major, and I think it solidifies the idea that Battle for Azeroth is very much a calm before the storm sort of situation, because Azeroth is now extremely weakened. We already saw that Azeroth was having all of these Void-related troubles in the Prelude questline to patch 7.3. So now we're in a state where the planet is extremely damaged, so it's not going to be, the World Soul will not be as strong when it comes to fighting off all those threats. So it's a lot more weak, a lot more susceptible to these risks. Now, we know that in the next expansion, Ashara is going to appear. Ashara serves the Old Gods. The first raid we go to, Uldir, is a Titan-themed raid. It's Titan and Troll. It seems very likely that Old Gods will be involved based on what we know of the various different zones. So what you can see here is that when you take the Battle for Azeroth, when you take what we know about the zones, the fact that the planet itself is in such a dire state, far worse than I previously thought, especially since this weird red energy seems to be pulsing directly into the heart of the planet itself. Because of all these things, yeah, I think we will have our little scuffle in Battle for Azeroth, and then it will pretty much kick straight into a full big Void storyline. Now, I also do want to talk a little bit about Valin. Valin really sees the end of his arc. So one of the things with Valin was he was a prophet, he wasn't really quick to action, he had a lot of faith, his gift of farsight basically meant that he was able to call things, he knew a lot of stuff in advance, he was very good at making predictions, but that kind of made him not really a man of action, and really not taking action led to a lot of bad things happening. He finally sort of breaks away from that in 7.2, and his sort of joking admission of all this at the very end of this cinematic is, it's kind of like a wrapping up between those two characters and showing the progress that Valin has made. Does this mean Valin's going to be a major character? I actually don't think so. I think it's time to put Valin a little bit to the side now. He's had a great arc in Legion, he's developed as a character, and I think that was quite successful. As for Illidan, he's done a little bit of development for sure. That's definitely a good thing. A lot of it's contextualized by the novel that came out before Legion. And yeah, I'm sure he's going to be a pretty damn major character in the future, though, because look, if you want to get rid of a character, normally you kill him. If you want to use that character again, you put him in stasis or something like that. You freeze him in ice under the Antarctic. And that's pretty much what they've done with Illidan. Then I suppose also just, yeah, shout out to how, like, cool that cinematic was. Like, that was really well done. So, as always, they're doing an excellent job with their visuals when it comes to what the team actually produces here. So, yeah, there you go. That's my reaction, lore breakdown, the whole 9 yards when it comes to this pretty damn epic cinematic. I think it means, yeah, it's just setting up some very, very, very cool stuff indeed. It seems like patch 7.3.5 will expand upon this story a little bit more, and now that I've seen this, I have to wonder if the reason why they've been so cagey about 7.3.5's actual sort of meaty content, they've talked a bit about systems, but not like the big, if there is any content, perhaps the reason why they've been cagey about that is because they wanted us to see this first, and they didn't want to spoil anything. So I'd imagine we'll find out pretty damn soon, though. Anyway, something to think about. So, thank you very much for watching. What do you think of, just this story, the end of Legion, where it's all sort of taken us and what really this could mean for the future? I'd love to hear. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.